The first millionaire in your family, multi-millionaire by 22. You left school with no GCSEs, worked multiple jobs to put food on the table. Now you are the man that you are today.
I would make money with one store, then lose it with the next store. Saw dropshipping, read the description. I was like, you know what? I've hit the jackpot. This is insane.
Many ups and downs. Ecom's not an easy game. You had some wins and some losses.
People see these opportunities and they don't take advantage of it. I got so much hate for it, man. Take this video down, I'm gonna unsubscribe from you.
They're using the same scripts because it worked.
You have to first off start with changing who you are. It's about how you make somebody feel. Identity building is very, very hard.
I don't think money is wasted when it's invested in self-development.
People use it to create. I use it after I create. Yeah. That's what the good guys do. That's what the amateurs do. You choose how hard you want to fall.
Welcome back to another episode of the TheoClarkePodcast, where I interview e-commerce entrepreneurs. Today's podcast is sponsored by Commercive Fulfilment, and I have the pleasure of speaking with Kamil Sattar, the Ecom king.
Nice to meet you, man.
Brother?
Really appreciate you having me on today. I'm really excited to dive into some of these topics.
Likewise, and thank you very much for coming down. I know you took a trip down from Birmingham to meet me here in London today. Really, really appreciate that and excited to get started.
Yeah, I had to make the journey because I'm really excited to see what we're going to discuss today.
Amazing. Well, I want to keep your intro short and sweet because you've shared your story multiple times on YouTube, where you're very big. So I want to kind of scan over it. But in summary, I just want to say you've come from very humble beginnings, and maybe we could touch on a little bit of that, to then becoming the first millionaire in your family, then multi-millionaire by 22, and now very, very successful at 25 with multiple ecom brands and dropshipping stores. And the reason I say from humble beginnings is I know your parents moved over here from Pakistan. They worked multiple jobs to put food on the table. I think you even said at one point your heating at home broke, couldn't afford a new boiler, and you're kind of washing out of a bucket and things like that. So to put things into perspective for people, to come from that, I know you left school with no GCSEs. You started working in Primark and JD. Anyone that's from the UK will be familiar with those stores, working there during the seasonal holidays. Saved up a couple of £1,000, put that money into your first dropshipping store. And within the first year, am I right? In Q4, you did $1 million in sales.
It was the year after.
The year after. So very, very, in some senses, quite quick success. But I know that transitioned into many ups and downs. Ecom's not an easy game. You had some wins and some losses, but stuck at it. And now you are the man that you are today. So no doubt, a lot of value that you can share. So maybe we could start by just touching on, I guess, that transition, like those early days in ecom, how you first got immersed into it, and how that's kind of transitioned into the many brands that you have had and the brands that you now co-own.
Yeah, so like my background in entrepreneurship, starting a business, would start in the buying and reselling, which a lot of other entrepreneurs have done as well, because it's the easiest one to get involved in and then get into other things. So I would buy and resell luxury goods. So it could be clothing, it could be Supreme, Bape, and then it'd be luxury footwear. So like Balenciaga or Giuseppe or Louboutin, Christian Louboutin. So that was really popular when I got started. And I just buy and resell them at a profit. And I'd invest the money that I'd make from Primark and JD to source these in. Now, I actually technically started dropshipping in 2015, because when I was buying and reselling, I wasn't actually buying the shoe till I got the order. So I'd advertise the shoe, but I wouldn't fulfill it till I got the order. So technically that's dropshipping, isn't it?
Yeah. So
I'd find somebody online that had the shoe. I would mark my price. So let's say the shoe's worth £600. I would then, let's say, go to eBay, find a shoe that the customer wanted, find it for £450. There's my £150. I've made my profit. I don't risk my money because, again, I'm not buying it till I've got the order. And then I realized that business model was not scalable because it required me to add a lot of time into finding the product, fulfilling it. It's not as simple as dropshipping where you can go to, let's say, some of these suppliers and they've already got their products there for you. I'd really have to find the sizing and etc. So then it made me think, okay, how can I scale this type of business? So then I looked online, how to make money online, affiliate marketing, SMMA, all these business models came up, saw dropshipping, read the description. I was like, you know what? This sounds very similar to what I'm already doing, just I'm selling different things. So then straight away, I indulged in the dropshipping world, started selling loads of different crazy things. Didn't find any success early on. I lost a lot of money. I lost around about £4,000 at the time. And yeah, it was very, very painful.
I can only imagine. It's interesting to see, like you say, you were almost kind of drop shipping before you knew it, but with clothes and retail. So no doubt it was appealing to then get into the online world of dropshipping because it was pretty much something that you were already doing, right?
I didn't even know that existed. I didn't even know that all these companies online existed that you can dropship from, and all you have to do is advertise. I just thought, wow, I've hit the jackpot. This is insane.
Yeah. And you had a very successful Q4. What year would that have been?
2018 to 2019 was good. That wasn't the biggest year. That was like the first year where I saw success. The biggest year for me was 2019 to 2020. That was my biggest year. And that was the game-changing year. 2018 to 2019 was when I really saw, okay, this can change somebody's life. Because prior to that, I would make money with one store, then lose it with the next store. So it would just be balancing out losses and wins. So then it's like, but then 2019 to 2020, then I hit my biggest year in Q4, did $1 million in revenue throughout Q4 with a tech store. And I was just like, wow.
And was that because you'd learned a lot along the way, but also I think you invested some money into like courses and masterminds to then further your knowledge as well, right?
Yeah, so my first mentor I got was in 2017. His name's Ashley Walker from Birmingham, and I always give him a massive respect. He isn't specifically dropshipping, he's just anything Ecom online advertising. And he taught me a lot of fundamentals. And then from there, I invested into more courses, more books, more actual training sessions in person. I invested a lot of my money into like personal development. A lot of people don't understand when you come from a certain background, when you're not very educated, you have to first off start with changing who you are. Some people are very well educated. They come from good backgrounds, so they already have that personal development. I had none of that, so I had to go through it. And when I went through it, it was a big payoff for me.
For sure. I don't think money is ever wasted when it's invested in self-development, whether that be specific for ecom or life and mindset in general. And I know the game changed for you when you discovered, or when TikTok kind of came about, and there was a lot going on with TikTok organic and also TikTok ads. So what was that transition like for you then, being immersed into TikTok, leveraging influencers? Am I right in thinking that's when things really kind of took off?
I think that's when profitability for me really took off. Like profitability before then was like between 10 to 18%, sometimes 20% on Q3, Q4. But to give you some backstory for everyone that's watching this, if you remember Facebook ads back in 2019, 2020, we started to go through some real big problems with iOS 14 point something or whatever it was called. And Facebook just went through this horrible period of attribution not working properly. You know, they're messing with the algorithm, so your ads aren't performing like usual. So then I was just like, wow, there's a big problem here. I'm not being as consistent as I used to be. I need that other thing. Google ads was something back then, but as I said to you before the podcast started, I didn't like doing Google ads. And then TikTok came around. I looked at it and I was like, wow, this is a massive opportunity, because TikTok is a new platform. So guess what they want? They want all these new people to come to TikTok. Even if they lose money for the first 2 years, they don't care, because they want the users to come. They'll monetize them later. So TikTok ads were very cheap to run. The CPMs, the CPAs, they were really low. But most importantly, the influencer marketing was unreal on TikTok. You know, influencers would take $10 and they've got 100,000 followers. They're getting millions of views because they don't know what their worth is yet. So you could underpay them and get over delivery in terms of the performance they'd give. And then don't even move me on to TikTok organic. You know, we started TikTok organic in 2019, 2020, and we were the first guys to really go crazy. I think me and my business partners joint together, we've done over 2 billion views on TikTok organic. So, you know, that was such a big opportunity. You know, the thing that upsets me is people see these opportunities and they don't take advantage of it. They're like, oh, I'm going to wait to see if it works first and then I'll do it.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I remember when TikTok came around and a lot of like new agencies emerged where they were doing TikTok ads and things like that, getting on the back of a new platform, learning it. And it's interesting to say that like some people don't jump on trends, some people do. I think if you can catch a trend and catch it well, it normally always pays off. But I don't know that I've necessarily done that with regards to TikTok ads, because being a guy that was on Google and maybe doing Meta, we have dabbled with TikTok. But I think in those early days, like you say, you could probably really take advantage of those low advertising costs.
Let me give you an example right now. You're an agency guy, right? So how many agencies now are offering TikTok shop services?
Yeah.
That's become a huge thing, hasn't it?
Yeah. Very big, very quickly.
The amount of agencies that I keep seeing offering TikTok shop, and I'm like, the services that you're providing are very easy for the business owner to do. It's just whether or not they've got the time. But the point I'm trying to make is TikTok shop was the new thing that blew up. And again, if you started it a year ago, then you would have seen the massive momentum of it.
Yeah, 100%. It's just catching that trend at the right time and knowing what to invest your time into. I think if you can get proof of concept yourself and then maybe provide that as a service as well. And if you say fulfillment is easy, why not?
Well, yeah, the problem with most people is when they see a trend, they're quite cautious and defensive about it because they're like, well, how do I know it's going to work? How do I know I've not lost time? And it's just like when there's a new trend, it's like when the word, I'm going to say it, COVID came out, you know, people were scared to jump on that trend. And I was, by the way, one of the first guys to publicly make a video. I deleted it, by the way. I'll explain why I deleted this video. I made a video about how much money I made selling masks during COVID. And man, I uploaded a YouTube video. I don't know if there's a website where you can see like where people delete videos. And I got so much hate for it, man. Like that was my first video where I just got hate. People like, take this video down. I'm going to unsubscribe from you. Because I'm basically showing off about how much money I've made during COVID in the first like two weeks of it coming out. Now people are getting praised for it. They're like, oh, you're such a smart business guy. You took advantage at the right time. But when I took advantage and I publicly made it public about it, everyone gave me a hard time. But the point I'm trying to make is I jumped on something that I knew was going to make money. Yeah. Natural instincts, and made a lot of money.
I think natural instincts and just speed to implement as well. I was quite impressed when after obviously the Trump attempted assassination with the shot on the ear, how quick Ecom guys were to jump on it, like t-shirts being sold left, right, and center.
T-shirts were coming out, memes were coming out. Like, look at the guy in the Olympics, that Turkish guy with the gun. Have you seen?
Yes, sorry, I have. Yeah,
everyone's now making t-shirts of this guy, man.
Yeah, I think it's a certain mindset, isn't it? Just the opportunist and speed to implement. And I suppose if you have those connections with regards to fulfillment and you can get a product out very quickly and dispatched immediately from China, then why not? Running an e-commerce business comes with many different challenges, especially when it comes to order fulfillment. Late deliveries, high shipping costs, and customer complaints can negatively impact your business, potentially leading to payment processing holds that will eat into your profit margins. That's why I'm excited to introduce you to Commercive, our sponsor today. They handle everything from manufacturing to storage and shipping with no hidden fees. And their dedicated WhatsApp support team are on hand to make sure you're always taken care of. Commercive offers 5 to 10 day shipping worldwide from China, with same-day processing and USA warehousing available for brands at competitive rates. Having served over 3,000 e-commerce sellers, Commercive has earned a reputation for reliable fulfillment. It's super easy to get set up. Just click the link in the video description and visit commercive.co to get a free quote. I think I've got some work to do to get my brain thinking in that kind of way. Opportunity and speed to implement. Now, speaking of trends, like you mentioned TikTok and TikTok shop and being quick to jump on trends, is there anything you're seeing emerging at the moment? I know you mentioned TikTok shop, but is there anything else that's kind of coming to the surface?
There is one like right now, and it's just recently been kind of announced that it could be something big. It's very, very recent, by the way, and that's the crazy thing. And it goes back to COVID. I don't know if you've been hearing about it, the whole monkeypox thing. Have you heard about it?
Oh, yeah. I've been hearing some things.
Everything's starting to sound just like COVID. It started here. Now it's moved here. Now it's moved into Europe. There might be lockdowns. So I'm actually starting a few new stores again, just selling the same stuff I sold during COVID and getting it ready. Because I'm very convinced that this is going to happen again. Yeah. I think they're going to put some lockdowns again.
Yeah, I think they probably will as well.
Because this whole monkeypox thing, I don't know I remember COVID very well. I actually was in New York a week before it was locked down. And I remember reading the articles and everything, but like right now, everything sounds the exact same. It's like they're using the same scripts, everything. So I'm genuinely now looking at, selling products that were doing really well during COVID again.
Yeah, they're using the same scripts because it worked.
Exactly. So imagine using the same scripts in COVID to sell to the same people that fell for it. So,
well, you've got the data there. You've got the existing data ready.
But that's the biggest thing that I'm looking at now. Or like at the level I'm at now, I've got teams in place that will build the stores, product page, etc., etc. So I've got to find so all I do at the moment is the media buying, so running the ads, because I'm just, I feel like media buying right now is so easy. You don't need to hire anyone to do it. So I do the media buying, and I also do the research in terms of what product I want to sell, what market I want to sell it in, et cetera, et cetera. But even regardless of this whole monkeypox thing, I'm currently selling a lot of digital products. So I've moved back into the digital products. I used to sell a lot of digital products in 2020. Had a lot of issues with, I was selling Apple digital products, so like wallpapers, and Apple kept shutting my ads down. But I'm back in that world again, and I'm going for like the one that I'm selling right now is an ADHD digital product. Finding that's working really well at the moment. So that's like a niche that I find. Digital products that are not the obvious ones like wallpapers and stuff like that. Like, who would think about selling an ADHD Notion template?
Yeah, I've not really heard of that kind of stuff happening before. Maybe I'm just not involved in that world, but I've not heard of people really selling digital products like that.
It's blowing up. If you go to Google Trends and type in digital products, filter it by the US, and then filter it again by Google search, Google shopping, YouTube search, the chart has just gone off the rocket, man. Like, digital products have just blown up again, and the fulfillment's so easy on them. The profitability, we're selling a bundle for like, what, $69.99? Even if it costs us $30, we're still making good money.
Yeah.
So I think digital products is really good at the moment. I think I've invested a lot of time back into that again. And then, like I said, I'm going to go back into probably looking at the monkeypox thing and trying to leverage that, really.
Yeah, for sure. So you're in that, like, I wouldn't say perfect scenario, but you're just kind of the brains behind the operations and obviously doing the media buying, but you're in the unique situation where you just have the teams that are able to implement everything for you. You know that they're either A players or they can fulfill things to a good standard. So I'd imagine that must just give you so much time to think, and why you're able to maybe get ahead on so many of these ideas. Because do you have like dedicated thinking time, or you just have free time where you can think on these things? Or
I just have free time. The crazy thing is, like you said, I have a lot of time to think. Sometimes I overthink, sometimes I underthink. But the thing that I'm gifted with, I believe, isn't anything special, but just thinking and being able to find ideas and think about these ideas. And I think the more time I'm given, the better ideas I come up with.
100%.
Like I said, I've got my teams in place. I trust them. It wasn't easy to get these teams in place. A lot of people think, you're an agency guy, so you'll know that when you hire people to do jobs for you, most of them are not very good. You have to go through it again, create SOPs, etc.
Yeah.
So now I've got the teams in place. Again, once I've got an idea, once I want to launch it, within the week it's done. It's ready to go.
Amazing. So you got, it seems like quite a few different things going on at the moment. I know you also have a few ecom brands. Have you transitioned away from dropshipping entirely, or do you still have some dropshipping going as well?
So ecom brands take up around about, let's say, 60% of the e-commerce side of sales, and then dropshipping and digital products takes up the rest. I'm still doing, because what I do is I try dropshipping, and then whatever's successful from there, I try and move it across to basically becoming a brand. Or if I find a dropshipping product, create a new product that's similar and sell it as a brand.
Yeah.
My newest brand that I'm starting is with my wife. It's called Commercive. It's a modest wear brand. So it's going to be back in clothing. A lot of my ecom brands are all clothing related, by the way. So I'm going to go back into it, but do modest wear, as I feel like that's the biggest niche that can be made a lot of money in.
How do you make that transition from a dropshipping business into an actual brand? Like, what does that look like?
It's not easy. People think it's as simple as you have a successful product, you white label it, here's your brand. That's not the case. Sometimes you actually have to create a new version of that product because the existing one's crap. So you have to go through a lot of communication with the supplier saying, look, I actually want to manufacture a new product. Now, sometimes the easiest method is white label the product, just put your logo on it, make a custom package. Now you have something called a brand because you've got your 3PL, etc. in place. But me personally, I don't really like that route anymore. I used to do it a lot back in my early days, but nowadays I feel like with a lot of competition out there, unless you either make a new version of the product, a lot of suppliers and manufacturers will allow you to create a custom version. They'll make a slight adjustment to it, but you'll have to order quite a decent amount in minimum order quantity. That's the route I like to go down. And also when you're building a brand, it's about what emotion you bring towards the brand. It's not even just a product, it's about how you make somebody feel when they buy from you. Like people 100%. Buy certain products because of the way it makes them feel. You buy Apple because you like the way Apple makes you feel as a consumer when you use it. So it's also about building that identity. That's the hardest part, by the way. The identity building is very, very hard.
So how would you go about doing that?
So when you're building an identity, you need to first off know who you want to sell to, who are those people, what are they interested in, and how do you want to reflect upon them in terms of the brand. So for example, if you're selling a high-end streetwear brand, which is what I've done in the past. So first of all, it's streetwear, high-end, but why is it high-end? Why do you want it to be high-end? And why would the person buy it from you? And what's the reason why they want to buy it from you? Number one, they like streetwear. Number two, they like what streetwear stands for. What's the background? Like, music's very related to streetwear, so you have to understand that. And then why do they want high-end streetwear? Maybe they want high-end streetwear because they want to be able to go to a restaurant, but be allowed to go in because it doesn't look like it. Sorry, it meets the, what's it called? The dress requirements. When you go to a restaurant, they're like, oh, you can't wear that because it's classed as a joggy bottom or a tracksuit. So you have to then find a way for them to look the same, but get in. Does that make sense?
Yeah, 100%.
I know that might be sounding weird, but it's like I said, these people love streetwear. They're not allowed to wear it in a restaurant because it's classed as not the dress code. So how can I make it look appealing in a high-end wear? So if you look at all these high-end brands now like Dior, etc., they're all doing, for example, cargo trousers that are $2,000. So that's the point I'm trying to make. It's about how you reflect on somebody. Why do they want it? Is there a problem, etc.? So that's really it.
Yeah, makes sense. I think just going back slightly to what you said about how a lot of people will think just taking their dropshipping product and sticking a logo on it, now they suddenly have a brand. I appreciate that's obviously not the case, but when someone does do that, or when they do transition away from a dropshipping product to, or multiple products to a brand, I think what seems to be a common fear within ecom is someone else just then ripping your product. Like, it almost seems like a lot of the time people don't want to put their face to a brand or publicly tell people because they're afraid that other people are just going to rip it. So is there anything you can do to prevent that? Like, obviously, making a product that outcompetes everyone else and truly meets the demands of the ICP, but is there any way you can protect your brand from just being ripped off?
It's very hard. So I'll go through a few ways we do it. So with our content, so we always try and strive to be the best content creators for our brand in terms of, if some people are selling similar products or the exact same one just without the logo on it, we make the best content for that product. We are literally the leaders in the space for the content. Now, of course, with being the leader in the space, people are going to rip it and try and run it. So we have 2 VAs that will report all the guys using our ads. So we hire 2 VAs, and everyone can do this. You can hire just 1 VA, let them go through the ads library, give them keywords that people use to, advertise the product. And if they find people ripping your ads, you just report them. And it works effectively. Don't get me wrong. It's very time consuming. That's why you need a VA to do it. That's the one method that we use. And then, like I said, if you're the best person at content, you'll stick out behind everyone else. The only other option you can possibly do is make your own version of the product, but that's very, very expensive because the minimum order quantities goes from 100 to 1,000 to 10,000.
Okay. And when you do come to making that transition from dropship to brand, can you typically do that with the same dropshipping agent or the same supplier that you've already got, or do you need to look elsewhere?
Some offer, 3PL services, fulfillment services, warehouse and services. Some of them offer it. Is it a good idea? Sometimes not. At the end of the day, sometimes there's a saying, if there's a jack of all trades, they're typically not good at one of them or all of them. So you want to find companies that are very, very good at 3PL, warehouse and fulfillment, and they don't do everything else. Again, like I said, a lot of these companies now, all the big names, they're all offering all in one solution. Is it the best? No.
Yeah.
I think you should find a dedicated company. There's a few that I've used in the past. Is it okay if I mention them?
Yeah, of course.
Ecom Ops, I think that's their name. We've used them a lot. We've used Fulfilment. We've used a lot of Honest Fulfillment as well. We've used a lot of companies and we've had great experiences. So I think what people should do is they should shop around, get quotes. Again, when you transition into a brand, it's about who can offer you the lowest minimum order quantity at a fair rate of product price and shipping price as well. If you can get those 3, it's very, very good.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people will find somebody that you're going to be thinking, oh my God, the shipping price is very cheap. The shipping times are very good. They're also saying that, the product cost and the shipping's all good in one. But then when you look at how many you have to order, it's crazy.
Okay, so it's the minimum order quantity that gets you
that typically pays the demand of how much you're going to pay, how much it's going to cost to ship. But if you can get all 3 in a decent rate, again, when you transition, you want to minimize risk because that is like a big jump. Imagine there's 2 bridges, a bridge here, a bridge here. You're literally jumping over nothing. So if you fall, if you've then decided to invest in 1,000 units, you're going to fall really hard.
Yeah.
But if it's only 50, you're going to fall here. So the point I'm trying to make is that you choose how hard you want to fall, because it's a very big jump and there's no guarantees it's going to work.
When is the right time to take that jump?
I would always say if you're not doing at least 100 orders a week that are profitable, again, if you are not profitable, there's no point. There's absolutely no point, because profitability drops when you scale. Profitability drops when you go down branding, because things get more expensive.
Yeah.
So I'd say at least 100 orders a week for around about a month and a half, 2 months.
Okay, makes sense. So make sure you've got that proof of concept, decent number of orders, and then if the time is right, make that transition.
You tell me, when you scale, does your profitability drop?
Yeah, 100%.
A lot as well. So you've got to understand that if you are not profitable, then you're just going to be even more unprofitable.
Yeah. High margin is extremely important when it comes to paid ads.
Yeah, cheap drop shipping does not work anymore, by the way. Like, back in my days, you could sell products for $19.99 and make money. You can't do that anymore. The cost per result or the cost per purchase is insane. They've gone through the roof. CPMs have gone through the roof. So unless you're making at least $35 in margin, you're not making much money. My experience.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough. You said earlier the term jack of all trades.
Yeah.
I'd like to try and relate that back to Ecom, because at the start, when you're building a dropshipping store or even an Ecom brand, you kind of have to be a jack of all trades unless you have big cash flow up front that you can then use to distribute and build teams and things like that. So when it comes to building a business, what's the best thing to do to try and fulfill on all of these different things? Because in Ecom, you've got to wear a lot of different hats to get the ball rolling. Maybe learn meta, maybe learn paid ads, manage your cash flow and your finances, potentially order stock or drop ship, create relationships with suppliers, abandon cart flows, building the website, Crow, all of these different things. I feel like you kind of have to go through it initially until you earn enough money to then outsource it. But when it comes to building brands at the start, is there any advice you give to people that you're mentoring that have to kind of take on all of these different skill sets when they're first getting started?
I think with Ecom and dropshipping, I think, again, it's the best business. I'm going to get onto the question in a minute, but I think it is the best business because of what you've just said. You've got to learn how to run ads. You've got to learn how to contact suppliers. So you learn all these high income skills because you've got to learn how to do dropshipping. And even if dropshipping doesn't work, you still walk away. Well, it doesn't work for you. You still walk away with all these skills that you've acquired that you can now sell as a freelancer for a lot of money if you want to. So it's such a blessing that people don't even realize till later on. But I would say the biggest skills that people need to focus on, again, it changes every 2 years what skills you should focus on because the market changes. The biggest ones now is content creation. We all know media buying is not the important thing anymore. All these algorithms pretty much do the hard. PMax does it for you. Facebook's machine learning does it for you. So the hard part is making the good content. These ad platforms use the content to figure out who to push it to. So you've got to be very good at content creation, understanding copywriting. And I would also say probably website landing page design, CRO. All these things are really, really important.
When it comes to content, are you leveraging AI much?
I am and I'm not. I think AI at the moment's hit a bottleneck in terms of how far it can be used. And I feel like a lot of people are using it and not many people are changing it. They're just giving what it gives out. And then you have loads of people that all look the same because they're all using the same AI. I use AI to help what I've already created. So if I create a script for an influencer to make for a UGC video, I'll use ChatGPT or a tool that uses ChatGPT to make it better, but I won't get it to create me something. People use it to create. I use it after I create. That's the difference. That's what the good guys do. That's what the amateurs do. The amateurs use ChatGPT to do it for them. The professionals get ChatGPT just to slightly change it.
Yeah, just to optimize the base that you've built.
Exactly. That's the problem that most people do. They're lazy, like, I'll let it do it all for me.
Yeah.
And then you get this horrible robotic output from it. And it's just like,
No, I get that. So content is king. Landing page is also very, very important. Not to forget that the product and understanding your ICP also important as well. And just kind of leveraging those algorithms when you can.
We live in a world now where it's all about attention. So who can grab your attention the longest will get paid the most. And it's getting harder and harder and harder. I remember back in 2021, I'd tell people that you've got the first 5 seconds to keep people entertained. Now it's like, 2 seconds? If you can't keep them in the first 2 seconds, goodbye. They're going to swipe, because everyone wakes up in the morning on TikTok. They swipe.
How do you keep people entertained in them first 2 seconds?
You got to do something crazy, man. If I showed you some of our videos that we've got, it's crazy because the first 2 seconds would would throw you off. You'd be like, I didn't expect that. So that's what you got to be able to do. You got to be able to make a video where they're like, oh my God, that threw me off. They weren't kind of anticipating that you'd do that.
Yeah. So when it comes to your many different brands that you've got, you mentioned one. Are you able to mention any of the other names or maybe the niches? You said clothing or
so
fashion?
Clothing's our biggest one that we have brands in. Solital, Fad Closet. Those are the 2 biggest in that niche. Obviously, I'm adding a new one, Kamesca, which is under development. A lot of time and effort's going into it. And then we have an extreme sports brand. I'm not going to say that because it's hybrid. It's dropshipping and it's white label, private label. So it's in the extreme sports. And again, that's one that most people don't think about, selling in extreme sports niches. So it's been very profitable for us. And then we still have a tech store that we use. So tech's a store that I've used since 2018. So we've just kept the same data, etc., and just sold to the same people.
Okay. So a few different niches. When it comes to fashion then, because that seems to be something that you're, would you say passionate about, or it's just
if you look
something
at my early days, I've always been in the world of fashion. My wife's a fashion designer. I've been with my wife now for 8 years. So it's all correlated. So it all makes sense.
Yeah, amazing. And it's amazing to kind of be in business with your wife as well. It's nice to see that. So with your fashion brands, does she do some of the designs and help?
The only one she designs for is Kamesca. So everything that will come out of that is from her. But she also has inputs on other things. She's done a lot of the work on Fad Closet as well, the new range. So yeah, she does a lot of stuff.
And Kamesca, is that the
modest wear brand?
Modest wear. Okay, cool. So is that, you said that's one that's still kind of in development at the moment?
Yeah, we're literally sampling. We've got loads of designs ready. We're just trying to find, again, the right person to make the clothes, because a lot of them, because it's going to be high-end modest wear. It's not going to be cheap stuff. So it's finding the people that can make the good quality stuff.
Yeah. So would that be dependent on location or maybe just the supplier themselves?
We've tried China. We have had a lot of, if you've been in the game long enough, China can be a lot of problems, man. Their attention to detail is not great. They Chinese manufacturers, they promise you the world, they underdeliver all the time. And it's a pain in the ass, honestly. So we're just trying all the different people that are good. Turkey, Portugal. Portugal's become a very big one now for fashion.
Okay.
Most fashion brands that everyone wears now is made in Portugal. So it's a very lengthy process, very expensive as well. Samples can cost thousands and thousands, and they're samples at the end of the day. They're not things you're going to sell. So it's a lot of effort.
Yeah. So when you are ready, when you've got the samples and when you've actually got the finished product and you want to bring it to market, what will the strategy be? You said content is king, and I know you're a big advocate of TikTok. So would that typically be where you would start, maybe leveraging influencers?
Because it's high-end luxury modest wear, we've got to make sure that we don't come across as a cheap brand that's on TikTok, buy it for $20. Like fast fashion is technically what I'm trying to target in terms of that's not what we want to be.
Yeah.
We want to be high-end luxury. You don't see high-end luxury brands on TikTok, do you?
No.
Advertised.
I don't use it, to be honest.
They don't go there because they know people on there typically aren't the people you want to sell to. High-end luxury brands are on Google. That's where you'll see them all. But typically we've got to be very careful with who wears the brand, who we use to be the face of the brand. We're going to be working with very editorial high-end models to get it done. It's going to be a very expensive job, basically. But we'll see. The modest wear brand is a big one. Like if you go to a lot of companies now, let's say like all these high-end luxury brands, if you go on their website, there's no section called modesty, is there? None of them have modesty sections on their website. They'll have summer range, they'll have winter range, they'll have autumn range, they'll have, dresses, but they won't have a section called modest.
So what actually is modesty wear?
Just any women from any background that want to cover up. So they want to wear a long dress. They don't want anything revealing. It doesn't have to be religious based, although obviously that will dictate some people. But a lot of, I speak to a lot of women that wear modest stuff and they tell me the stress they go through. Again, it's about knowing who you're selling to. So I speak to a lot of women, they're like, I have to buy 4 different things to make it all work. So they've got to buy 4 different things. I'm going to sell that one thing that will do the same job. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense. So that's the USP you're coming at it from.
Exactly. So I've already figured out there's a massive demand in the market. There's a massive hole in the market. And there's also money to be made because people are dying for this product. They just are waiting for it to come to them.
Interesting. So with your fashion businesses, do you tend to, I know a lot of your figures are in dollars. So is that because you serve the US market or do you serve UK as well?
So it's interesting. Solital is It's USD as the main currency, but they're all USD because the majority of the sales on all of them are USD. Every single one of them. Fight Closets, the US. Solar Towel, although it's big in Europe, is again US. But I'm going to be honest with you, the US is slowly dying for all of us in terms of profitability. Europe's becoming the biggest market for us, and the Middle East market's becoming very big. Asia's becoming big. Japan's becoming really big. Singapore's becoming very big. But yeah, Europe's a really good one. I'm sure you've spoke to a lot of European guys that talk about how Europe dropshipping's really good and stuff like that.
Yeah. So why do you think the US market is maybe diminishing in that sense? Do you mean just for fashion, or do you just mean you're seeing this in general?
As in just all ecom related. It's starting to technically not die because there's still a demand there, but because it's getting so diluted with everyone there, the rates are just going through the roof. Really bad as well.
As in rates, as cost of advertising?
Cost of advertising, fulfillment, everything's just going through the roof. So a lot of people are now looking for smaller markets, again, in Europe that are high GDP that people will buy. Like, I can't get crazy average order value in America. I can get it in Norway. I can get it in Switzerland very easily.
Okay. Interesting. I know a lot of people are big on the European markets. I'm hearing people speak more about Europe than they are the US now, which is interesting.
Do you know what's crazy? We did Europe dropshipping since 2019, and now it's become this big crazy thing that everyone talks about.
Yeah.
You know who actually got me onto the Europe market? I've not ever told anyone this anyway. There was a YouTuber back in the day. I was paying him a lot of respect. It's a shame that he's now disappeared somewhere. His name was Gabriel St. Germain. He's one of the OG guys, really good. And I remember him making a video about EU dropshipping. And when I saw the numbers, I was like, yeah, I'm just going to do it.
Yeah.
And this was in 2019, by the way. And it paid a lot of homage. We sold a lot of pet products in Germany. I don't know what it is about Germany, but they love pets, man. They love cats, they love dogs, and you can make a lot of money.
It sounds like you've had quite a few different niches over the times.
You know what it is? When I find, like I said, an opportunity, I jump in all arms. Because what happens if things don't go right? You lose a little bit of money, you lose a bit of time. But I look at the RR, risk to reward. The risk to reward for me is worth it.
How do you identify these opportunities? Because to me, it seems like it's almost not an impulse or like a gut feel, but is it backed up by data? I know you mentioned Google Trends earlier, but for someone that's maybe keeping an eye out for opportunities and looking for something to jump into, how do you decide when something is right?
That's really good. So I'm a very data-driven guy. So I'll go on to Statistica. I think that's the name of it. It's a website where it indexes all the statistics. And I've got a paid subscription on there. It's not cheap, but it shows you all the statistics on consumer behavior over time.
Okay.
So I get alerted on there all the time. I also use Pinterest trends. So Pinterest is huge. I use Etsy trends. So I'm signed up to all these different websites that are e-commerce related, that are trend-based. And I'll get notifications saying, this is now trending. This is now trending. Even Google Trends. So I'm very well in the loop. I'm also subscribed to a lot of newsletters and websites where it will push news related to ecom. So the way ecom's changing.
Interesting. So once you've kind of backed it up by data, and I guess if it feels like the right decision to make, that's when you'll go for it and get proof of concept and try and scale.
So like if an article will come out and say this market's now doing really well for this, I won't jump in straight away. I'll need to look for brands in that. So I'll go on the ads library, find these brands that are advertising in there, try and work out how much money they're making. Are they scaling their ads? If they are, obviously there's money there. I just won't go off an article saying there's money there. I'll have to back it up by data.
This time last year, I was living with my parents at age 27. Not a good look, I know. But today, I live in my dream home in Dubai. I don't drive Italian sports cars, but I do live comfortably enough to not worry about finances and to be able to fully take care of those closest to me. That to me is the wealth that I've always dreamt of achieving. And if the Theo 5 years ago knew what I knew now, then achieving this goal would have been far easier and far less stressful than it was in reality. My ticket to this dream lifestyle was Google Ads. I got really good at scaling e-commerce businesses with Google Ads. Trust me, mastering this skill as a digital marketer can put you on the course to earning much more in your career, increasing your client retainers, and ultimately achieving more for your time. And with my new Google Ads Ecom Academy, I'll show you exactly how to join the top 1% of marketers using my proven step-by-step scaling strategies. These strategies helped me work with known ecom brands like CheeseGeek, as featured on Dragon's Den, and invested into by Stephen Bartlett. I also scaled my brother's business, Tropay Official, to 1.1 million in sales within 12 months, and many, many more. The Google Ads Ecom Academy is designed for all levels, beginners, intermediates, and experts who want to learn how to successfully scale e-commerce businesses. If you want to win with Google Ads, see the video description for more details. All right, now back to the podcast. Yeah, of course. That makes sense. So it's get signed up to a lot of these different platforms, don't necessarily do all of the hard work, but be
So instead of waking up in the morning and going on TikTok and messing around on TikTok, wake up in the morning and be splurged by all these media websites that are trying to give you insights on the market. So when I wake up, I'm not on TikTok looking at these videos of where to go to eat and stuff. I'm wanting to understand how the world's changing.
Yeah. You speak about data and things like risk to reward, and it seems like you're very well rounded. Like you have a good understanding of many different things, not just ecom, but like mindset, understanding when is a good opportunity, cash flow, and allocating capital to the right places. Is that just years and years of being in the game, or?
Yeah, I'd say, I've been in the game for a very long time, and I think you learn when you make big losses. I've had a lot of big losses. I've publicly announced them, shown them. And when you have big losses, it makes you really rethink and consider how you approach things from now on. So you have to really take a step back and think, what's the risk to reward on this, et cetera, et cetera. And then you realize that you have to go through a very intense risk strategy.
Yeah.
Because if you don't, we were selling fishing rods back in 2019. 2019, I remember I was with my wife and her family in a nice part of the UK where it's sunny and beachy. And my phone was just chinging every 2 seconds. And I was like, I'm living life. And when I got back off that holiday, I got loads of emails from my VA saying customers are not happy. And I'm like, why? The product got delivered on time. They've told me that the supplier was selling a different version of the product. And the reason why they were selling a different version is because they sold out of the version that I was selling. They didn't even tell me that they were going to change the product. So they thought, okay, just find the nearest thing to it and we'll sell that instead. Again, goes back to being careful with who you work with. And then we had like a $60,000 bill because people wanted refunds. They wanted this size fishing rod. They wanted it in this color. They got the totally different wrong size in a different color.
That's crazy. So you've mentioned the word risk quite a few times now. You even said it earlier, like when you're transitioning from dropshipping to brand, major risk. Like you need to understand the risk to reward, and you mentioned it again there. So do you have not like a process for analyzing risk, but what is your thought process when it comes down to looking at these opportunities or really calculating what is the potential risk of this? Is it just adding up all of the potential costs and comparing it to what you believe the upside could be based on the trend or the data that you're seeing? Or
so once I know, so let's say I'm going from a drop shipping background now to an e-com white label background, I will figure out what the cost would be to change it over. I would then look at what I could make to the upside, looking at other people selling the white label version. Then I'd also look at the downside. So if I was to miss out, let's say I give $15,000 to advertise and spend, and let's say purchasing anything that's needed in the business. So I could lose 15,000 technically, but how much could I possibly make? Now, I also take into consideration what could it be bought for. I always start stores in mind of selling them in the end because I know that's where you make the most money. Anyone that sold dropshipping stores will tell you that they made more money selling it than they did running it. So I also look at, okay, what could this be sold for? I go on flipper.com. I go to, what's the other one called? I go to flipper.com, I go to website closers, I go to all these platforms that sell ecom brands, and I look at, are there alternative or competitors on there that are selling theirs? What are they selling it for? This is what I could potentially sell mine for. I'm also very well connected with a lot of brokers that I've done business with in the past. I tell them that, what could be the value of this in the future. They give me some rough numbers. So I know that there's a reward at the end. There's more reward at the end, at the final stage, than there is running it.
Yeah, so it's more of a long-term play for you, or what? Like, how long do you need to run up a store for before you can potentially
You can't sell it until you've run it for 3 years.
3 years?
No, unless it's unless you're going to a private buyer. But if you're going through a broker, they will not touch you till you've had at least 3 years. And it can't be 1 year like this, another year like this. It has to be a stable growth because buyers don't want risk. And you won't get paid in full. A lot of people think, 3 years later, I'm going to have 500 grand. They won't pay you in full. They'll pay you over time.
Okay.
And if you don't meet targets, they won't even pay you in full.
So it's actually a long-term play. You're looking at trending data, or not always necessarily trending, because some of them is fashion and things like that, but you're really thinking, okay, what is this brand going to look like in 3 years, and what's the exit going to look like? Is that always the strategy, or are some of your brands long-term?
Always the strategy. Of course, we start stores for cash, purely for cash flow. Like, I know stores and products that could easily print me 10,000 a month in cash flow, but it couldn't be sold. And there's a reason, if I'm low on cash flow, I'll do that. But most of the stuff that I'm doing now is long-term to be sold, and I get a big paycheck at the end, which is nice. Look at Gymshark, for example. Do you think Ben Francis ever thought when he started it that it'd be worth $1 billion?
Don't think so, but who knows?
That's the point I'm trying to make. I think people don't realize that if you build a beast big enough, it can be worth a lot of money.
Yeah, for sure.
And that's where the money, and that's the truth. I think that's where the money's worth, or where the money is.
So have you exited many of your brands or stores?
I'm going through talks of exiting 2 right now. So I'll announce them once they're done, because when you're going through negotiations, you sign NDAs, you can't do anything.
Yeah.
I've sold a few dropshipping stores in the past for 6-figure deals, but again, wasn't paid in full for all of them. I was never paid in full for any of them.
Really?
I got about, probably if you work out in the percentage ratio, around about 60 to 50%, because they didn't meet targets.
Yeah. So even after the point of sale, they have expectations and targets that they want to continue.
So they'll pay you 30% maybe at the start, or 20%, and then they'll slowly pay it out over the year, and then their second year.
Assuming it hits the targets.
Exactly. If it doesn't, you don't get paid.
So there is a risk that you could run up a store for 3 years, get 30% of the real price of what you believe it's worth, and then potentially have nothing.
But it's your responsibility to make sure that you give that buyer everything they need. And there's a transitioning period where you stay on board for at least 2-3 months and help them out with transferring their team to your team. Sorry, your team to their team in terms of who's going to run the media for them. Because you don't want that brand to die out. Yeah. Although people think, oh, well, you hand it off, that's it. You don't, because you won't get paid until they fulfill their needs.
A friend of mine who I met recently, I won't say his name because I don't know if he wants me to share the story, but he sold his brand, and I think it was a similar kind of deal. The guy had maybe had it for 6 to 8 months, and it had just been a slow negative decline ever since the guy took it on. And then he ended up selling it back to the friend of mine for £1. So he's now got the store again, and he ran it back up.
No way, man. That is crazy. I've never heard of that before, but that is a crazy story. But yeah, people have to really think like logical about these things. They hear things in the news, they hear people on YouTube saying, I just sold my brand for this, and they don't actually understand what's involved. They might just hear the headline, I sold my brand for 3 million. Yeah, okay. I sold my brand for 3 million and think, oh, they just got a wire to their bank for 3 million. No, they didn't.
Yeah, it's a slow transition, or not a slow transition, but you need to make sure that store keeps on going.
And people need to have the mindset of, if you are going to sell your store, don't be a sleaze bag and just ruin it for the buyer by not helping them. You need to help them out.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so that's the kind of, not the longer term play, but that's what you're working towards. And that's something that you consider before you even start a business. And I think that's probably a good way to think about it. Like, I understand what you mean. You can set up like a quick flip or a store that you know is going to print, but maybe won't print forever. And then you've got those longer term plays where really what you're gearing towards is an exit. And that's
exit
where you
strategy for the future generation, my kids, my grandkids, etc. That's what it is for me personally.
Amazing, bro. Well, I think we covered quite a bit in this podcast, but is there any maybe remaining thoughts that you'd like to share with someone that's in ecom, trying to grind it out, maybe trying to get to where you are today?
I would say to most people, it's probably not going to be what they want to hear, but be very careful of what you're listening to online more than ever before. When I got started, thank God that there wasn't too much of this BS, Twitter money, flex money kind of thing. It was very chilled out back then. And I think people just need to really be careful with what they're listening to, where they are, where they're positioning their time, and most importantly, their attention. Because although you might say to yourself, I won't use this as a kind of like, I won't use this as a perspective of what I could get. Naturally, your brain will slowly say to itself, I should have this expectation, even though you technically think to yourself, you're not expecting that. So if you keep seeing every day a Lambo, this, it's going to slowly be like, I've got to have this now. So I'll be very careful where you're paying attention and just grind. I would say be very careful of all that stuff. And also network with people. You know, all the most successful people that I've spoke to recently have all found networking opportunities to go to. You know, it's easier to start a dropshipping store or an ecom brand with a friend or somebody than it is to do it on your own. Yeah. It's not as lonely. you can go half with each other on it and it makes more sense. I think everyone should network or go into business with at least one person they trust. And that's the truth.
Yeah.
I wish I did.
It's really funny because I put a tweet out a few days ago, just earlier this week, saying similar thing. Like I started in high ticket dropshipping, exited my store at the time, went into the Google ad agency, and like I said to you earlier, kind of do want to dip my toes back into ecom, but I don't think I'd want to do it alone. I'd want to find someone that I can actually partner with and just make it an enjoyable process. Because I've done it alone before and I didn't really enjoy it as much.
I think it's one of the most underrated advice that you'll hear anywhere, which is get into business with somebody. Although you're going to think, oh, well, I'll lose half the profit. Trust me, when you're building it, it'll be so worth it.
Yeah. Two people aligned on one goal with shared interest is always going to get there quicker if it's the right person. Of course, like not every business relationship works out well, but you just need to be very careful with who you go into business with. But if you pick the right person, no doubt.
And if you're worried about I'll lose half the money because I'm giving half the company away, well, you might hit numbers that you can't hit on your own. So if you're thinking of doing 100K a month, but then with the other guy together, you can do $1 million. Facts. You're still making more money.
Facts.
So you got to think like that.
Yeah, for sure. Well, Kamil, you've dropped a ton of knowledge in this podcast. I really, really appreciate it. And I would like to say as well, your YouTube is like a bank of knowledge. So when you're talking about making sure you listen to the right people online, I'd highly recommend to anyone watching this that you check out Kamil's channel.
Thank you.
I believe it's just the Ecom King, right?
The Ecom King, that's right.
Clearly admired on there. I think you've got over 500k subscribers, which says itself, the kind of value that you're putting it out.
I'd definitely say when it comes to value, the channel's one of the best, if not the best, at just value-based content. If you don't want the lifestyle flexing, it's definitely the place to be. So much value, so much free resources as well. And yeah, lots of years of proven concepts and transparency.
For sure. And you do have some paid courses and paid mentorship?
Nah, I've closed it all down.
Oh, you closed it down?
Yeah, I've actually got free mentorship now, so you just sign up for free. I just want to give everything for free, man, pretty much at the moment.
Amazing, bro. So there you go. Not even any paid courses to drop links to. Everything's free. You've got, everything. Is it a free Discord?
Free Discord, free mentorship where you join the vault and you get all the mentoring in there for free. And that's it, man. I just want to pay respect to everyone that's helped me on the way.
Amazing. So where can people get access to all of these things and where can they find you?
So if they just go to the Ecom King and just check the description, be careful all these fake bot accounts. Just use the description. You'll find all the relevant free links there to anything that I say.
Instagram, your same
the
handle,
Ecom
right?
King,
Instagram, Twitter, YouTube.
So the Instagram is _Ecom_King and only pay attention to the verified accounts. There are a lot of fake accounts all the time. So just only the verified ones. Check the dates that they were made. If they were made a year ago, it's fake. If it was made 2 days ago, it's fake.
I will get all of the correct links off of you. I'll put them in the video description. So if anyone wants to check out any of your channels, they can do.
Really appreciate it, man. Appreciate your time.
Thank you, brother. Thank you for coming down.
Take it easy, man.